All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Succulent Box project. You see a few samples of these on the workbench. This one has some succulents in it, and that's the goal, is to take one of these samples and find out what the dimensions are of the parts and build one from scratch with hand tools only. So here's a short instructional video to get you going, and we'll take it from there. Notice what I'm doing here is I'm selecting the part that's going to be glued and the other part that's going to overlap it with nails. So I stand that one up, apply a little wood glue to it. My glue bottle's jammed, so I clogged up, so I just put some wood glue on this paper airplane. Don't be afraid to use some on your finger. You just need to wipe it or wash it off. This stuff is very tough. Don't get it on your clothes. It doesn't wash off once it's dry. So I'd pre-hammered the nails, and that was for a reason, so that when we have, it's much easier to do that on a flat surface than to try to come back and do that later. Let's see where my numbers are. There's 3. 3's gonna go like that, and 4 is going to go on top of it. So I'm gonna go ahead and put nails in. Pre-nailing is really helpful because you have a flat surface to nail onto. Just make sure you're giving yourself a margin on all sides that look good. And also, you're not hammering into your fingers. Once you get it started, you can straighten it out a little bit, but keep your fingers out of the way. I'm barely hammering the tip through this surface here into the tabletop, just barely. Don't go overboard, but you can feel it sticking, and that's enough. This one's a little crooked, but it's okay. It's crooked in a safe direction. I might just take a little bit of a tap on the side so it will enter flush. I'm gonna go ahead and line these up. Seams look good. You can just gently press into it, tap into it. Though that pre-hammering saves you a bunch of grief on this end. So probably you have to straighten this out later, but a couple good taps and you're good to go. Remember, it's the glue that's gonna hold your project together. The nails don't do anything really. They're just holding it while the glue is drying. Okay, oftentimes kids forget to glue, and you can just pull the whole project apart with your bare hands. This angle here is not correct. It'll straighten itself out once I nail everything together. I'll show you that when it's finished. Okay, the box is in pretty good shape. The sides are almost flush, close enough to sand and file down. My hands are a mess, but basically what I'm gonna do is fit it to the base one more time and figure out where I need to adjust the walls and or base, and spin it around and see where it might fit best. It's actually pretty close. There might be a better side. It turns out it doesn't fit so well depending on which way I spin this. So you're gonna wanna go around and find out which is the best final match between the base and the side walls. And I'm pretty close here with mine. And what I'll do is, again, use some wood glue, and most likely I'm going to put the corners in first. There's a nice example. So not hitting the corner exactly, but offset. Making sure that your spacing here will intersect the wood below it. So make sure that you're off. That's probably what, 1/4 of an inch boundaries for your nails. And so plan on using 8 nails to solidify the base of this thing, make it extra tough. All right, I'm ready to attach this. I'll go ahead and do that and do some final filing, sanding, and get this thing ready for finish, coat of paint or stain. Okay, you can see the box that is now all assembled as far as the base attached to the walls. There are a few joints here that aren't connected flush. I could tell just by feeling around with my fingertips. I'll take care of that with file and some sandpaper and get all the stuff, all the grain laid down nice and smooth. Everywhere you should touch, except for the inside, should be smooth to the touch. So spend some time, may even take a full class period to go through and sand this whole thing down. It's a real sign of craftsmanship if taking pride in your work, getting this thing to look really nice. You can touch up a lot of mistakes. Even if there's a gap like this, there's some tricks that you can use by actually using some wood glue and sawdust and filling in some of these fine cracks if needed. But I'm not going to worry about that right now. Actually, it provides a little drainage for the plants. So I'm going to leave all the cracks the way they are. It's okay to have a few along the base and the sides for this project, as long as they're not too outrageous. So the nice thing is the top walls feel really smooth and flush. I'm just going to go ahead and touch up the edges, and I'll show you what I've got before surfacing this with some kind of sealer, stain, or paint. Okay, this is the next phase of the project. You can see that I've sanded the base down, or filed that rather, to match up pretty well with the walls, and anything that was popping up has basically been filed down. I actually like this beveled effect where I actually rounded off the sharp corners to this project so that it's a little bit more, for me, a little more aesthetic, a little more pleasing, a little easier to handle, and just more gentle to hang on to. So think about that as an option. It's not required, but I took the beveling down a little bit lower to the corners of the base as well. And I'm going to match all those things up with sandpaper real soon. There'll be different grits of sandpaper to use. The numbers on the back are really important, but you can feel which one is rougher just by rubbing your finger over it or your thumb. This is the 220. It's very fine. That would be the finishing grade sandpaper. Start off with something a little rougher, like the 100. Get just a scrap block of wood, or if we have some sanding blocks, you can use those. I'm just going to fold this one over. This is super generous. Each one of you could use like 1/4 of the size of one of these things, or maybe you'll get one piece for your entire project and just keep using different areas of it. One of the reasons I'm showing you this is one of the techniques for sanding. I'm going to go ahead and cut this. I don't need that much of it. Just tear this off real quickly. Work with a smaller piece. You can block these things up in the vise so that you don't have to hold on to it. That would be a nice way to go. But just for demonstration purposes, sanding should always be done with the grain of the wood. parallel with a grain. So in this case, the grain is running horizontal this way, left and right on the camera, and that means I need to follow that. And so you're going to be wanting to maintain that position as you spin this around, looking for any pencil marks or blemishes that need to come off. And just let your fingers do the guide. If you feel something rough, that's where you're going to aim to shoot to level that thing down. We might countersink these nails a little bit. They should all be below the surface of the wood. If they're sticking out a little bit, causing a little bit of a rough feel to it, you can simply tap it down with a little force, or we might take a countersink tool and sink those down a little bit. That's a little better. Sorry about the loud sound. So anyways, we've got some sanding to do here. I'll hit it a little bit with the 100 and come back and see what it looks like there. Okay, I'm going to pause for a little bit right now. I've got some more sanding to do. My expectations for you on this project is, so all the seams should be at the same level. So when you run your finger across there, you shouldn't, when you feel it, you shouldn't know there's two different pieces of wood there. They should be level enough that this floats right across. So I'm not quite there yet. I will be soon. I just need to sand a bit there on the corners. Get these seams all to line up. It's just a matter of sanding and lining those pieces of wood up so there shouldn't be any real big bumps between. Or if there is, it's a smooth ramp transition to that. So that's your goal. Once you've got the rough fit established between the base and all the components, all the side walls, take it one step further with a small piece of the fine grit just to knock some of the rougher edges down so it's nice and smooth, prepping it for the paint and or stain that you might choose to treat this with. So we have varieties of different colored paints that I'll display in the next segment of the video, and a whole host of different stains. In either case, you want it to be waterproofed, at least on the outside, and so it lasts longer. It holds up well in an indoor and outdoor setting. So in that case, we have different sealers that will apply either paint on or spray sealers to put the finishing touches on your project. So I'll get to that in a little bit. After you've got the rough sanding finished up with the 220, get this thing so it's just smooth, smooth, smooth all the way around. Don't worry so much about the inside, but for the exterior, all surfaces should be smooth to the touch, and there shouldn't be any rough transitions between any pieces of wood, okay? All nails should be flush or below the surface of the wood as well. You don't want to be gouging any tabletop or surface that you touch it to. These are going to make great gifts. We also have wood burners. If you feel like calligraphy or printing some design or motif on this before it's stained or painted, you could also do that. So that'll be an option for finishing this project up. Make great gifts, and it's just in time for our holiday break. So hopefully you're having fun with this project in the near future.